So let me start by saying thank you for joining us here. It's Bryant over here at Alloy 7. Tonight I have a really good topic for all of you. Still going through, as you can see, I'm actually here in the office right now, and I've basically been going through all of the emails that you all have been sending me on the biggest challenges that you're facing right now as a YouTuber. Like, it's a metric ton. I don't think it's probably whited out here on the camera, but there's literally tons of people who've sent me emails about the challenges you're facing on your YouTube channel, and a lot of you just challenges you're facing in general, which is my forte. All right, I have spent a large portion of my life both learning from and then passing on the knowledge that I've taken away from a lot of my coaches and a lot of my mentors. I've spent a lifetime as a student of a lot of great people, and I mean great people in the business world, great people in my family, great people in the military, great people in the government, great people. I had great football coaches all the way across the board. But what I wanted to do tonight, before we jump into this, can we be successful as YouTubers and how to overcome self-doubt? That's the topic. And tonight I'm not going to attribute it to a specific channel, because literally this was a theme that runs through so many of the emails you sent me. Even if it wasn't the specific thing that you called out, a lot of you are struggling with this. What do I do next? Am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? Some of you are in that interesting place. A lot of the folks that I've worked with are in that interesting place between, transitioning from high school to college, for example. Should I go to college? Should I not go to college? What should I study? YouTube is kind of a plan B for a lot of the folks that I talk to. And it's, if college doesn't work out, or if, with the way the economy has been over a lot the past several years, and folks, especially younger millennials looking for jobs, it's been more challenging than I think it was really originally expected to be. And YouTube became this phenomenon where people have been able to build a large amount of success, and now a lot of you, myself included, see it as an opportunity to be successful. But there's a couple of things that we have to take into consideration first. Before we can be successful, we have to be able to create something that other people want to be a part of. But before we get into that, before we get into this one trick to help you overcome self-doubt, and I'm telling you, it's so simple, like a caveman could do it. And the problem is, the reason why we don't do it is because nobody teaches us that this is the way to do it. And honestly, we've been taught kind of backwards. It's the reason why so many human beings, and we all struggle with self-doubt to a degree, don't get me wrong, as confident and as assured as I am in the things that I do, understand that all of us deal with self-doubt. But before we get into that, I wanted to, a lot of you are new to Alloy 7. You've been coming from Tim's channel over at Video Creators. Tim is actually responsible for a large portion of my audience being an audience, so I owe him a great debt of gratitude. But I think one of the things I haven't done extremely well on the channel is help you understand my why. Like, why do I do these videos where I come before you multiple times per week and give you these tips or these ideas, these things that I believe can help accelerate whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it's YouTube, whether it's getting a job. I've helped people through our academy, for example, get jobs. I've brought people in to work with me at Alloy 7 through the academy and through things that we've done on the channel. But this idea of why I do what I do, and if you saw last night's show, you saw a big piece of my why, which was my baby boy, whom I love dearly. But the reason why I got started in business wasn't because of my children, because when I started in business, I didn't have children. Now, granted, I want to be perpetually and increasingly successful, because that helps my children get more opportunities and get access to resources. But the real why behind me getting started in business goes back really to, so I knew when I was 17 that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had that figured out. In fact, I was probably younger, because I think at the age of 9, I was doing business deals at family dinners with my family's friends and negotiating money from friends of my family, and then getting yelled at because I was able to talk a 50-year-old man into giving a 9-year-old money because I was persuasive. But it's not really about the money. Like, my story really, for what we're doing here, starts shortly It actually starts in the Army, but I'm going to fast forward you a little bit so you can understand really the core of why I get out of bed every day and why I'm so focused on helping other people. Because I think you find a lot of people in the world, they say they want to help others, but it's usually just to get something for themselves. And that's not the case for me. But I'm going to explain to you why, so that it's not just me saying it like you're like, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. So with my story, we go back to my military days, and many of you have heard my stories about being in war and being in combat and how that shaped the way I see the world now, which is very different than when I, before, not very different, but there's different, my priorities are a lot more focused after having had that experience. And during my time in the military, I befriended one of the guys that, you know, we say worked for me, but I like to say worked with me. And the short version of the story is he was one of my team leaders, basically, for lack of a better way to explain it, one of my fire team leaders. And he and I became friends over the course of our short time together in the military. He left the unit. I ended up going to war. And so this is actually a story. My story actually starts with a guy named EJ. And so he leaves the unit, we go to war, and we do our thing in the war, we come home. What I don't realize at the time when I came home from war was EJ, the unit he went to after he left our unit, the unit he went to was the unit that replaced me and my guys when we left the war. I didn't know that at the time. Okay, I hadn't kept up. We didn't have Facebook and all these cool, awesome things that make it easy to keep up with one another during this time. So it was easy to lose contact with people that you deeply care about. And this is a guy with a family, you know, wife, kids, the whole nine, all of which I had met and had interaction with. Anyway, EJ's unit replaces mine. We fight the war, rah, rah, we go home. You know, the happy version of the story is me and all my guys get home safely. And that was my obsession when I was in combat. Shortly after we got home, they send us out on leave. I take my wife to Disney World because it's free for soldiers to go there. And I come back. We come back to work. And so my cousin is in the unit with me. And we're back at work, and he pulls me aside. He's like, hey, I need to tell you something. I was like, what's going on? He was like, Sergeant Patterson died this morning. And the interesting thing about that was the last name Patterson is pretty common. And so he told me, I was like, and so we had another Sergeant Patterson in the unit. And I was like, wait a minute, I just saw Sergeant Patterson like 5 minutes ago. He was walking around. I'm like, and why are you, like, if he's dead, why are we here? Let's go figure out how we can help the situation. He's like, no. Your friend, EJ, has passed away. And I was like, what? He's like, EJ was in the unit that replaced us when we came home, and he was killed by an IED yesterday. And I didn't really know how to take that at the time. As most men do, we probably suppressed. The immediate response was anger, you know, but there was also this deep sense of guilt because as a commander, as a soldier who leads other soldiers, you understand that your primary duty is to protect the people that you've been given charge over. If you're a good officer or a good non-commissioned officer or a good leader, no matter what it is, whatever title you want to put on it, you understand that your job is to keep your people safe. And it's to provide an environment where they can succeed. In the case of war, it's accomplishing your mission and getting home alive. And there was this deep sense of guilt that I had, even though he was no longer in my unit. It was kind of like being in the military is like being in a huge fraternity where it's your brothers. That's just the way it is. And I say brothers, I'm not trying to disrespect any ladies out there. Obviously, there are women in the military. In my line of work, there were no women. So it was you're this band of brothers. And there was this sense of responsibility, even though it was completely irrational. There was nothing I could have done to help him, right? Nothing I could have done to help him. He wasn't with me. He wasn't in my unit. I was at the house. He was out fighting. But there was this deep sense of I wasn't there to protect him. I wasn't there to protect my friend. I wasn't there to make sure that my friend got home safe to his wife and children. Okay? So, and I carried that with me for a long time. And the short version of the story, you go through depression, you go through all the emotions and the PTSD symptoms and whatnot. And I finally got to a place in my life where I realized there was this kind of self-absorption that I was feeling so much pain because I wasn't sharing the pain. And it hit me, and nobody said, like, I really felt like, for me, it was like a message from God. Like, what are you doing with your life to give back to other people? Because your friend EJ doesn't have the luxury, he doesn't have the liberty, the luxury, or the benefit of getting to come home to his family. You are home with your family. You get to spend every day with this beautiful wife and now beautiful children. What are you doing with that? And I made up my mind at that point in my life that I would spend, when I had that revelation, that I would spend every day of my life living it to the honor of, and there's other friends I have that have passed as well, but I use EJ as an example because he and I were pretty close for the short time that we knew each other. But the point is, my friend EJ doesn't get to come home. His family doesn't get the benefit of getting to see him every day. Mine does. So I owe it to them, and I owe it to all of you, to every day of my life, live it to the absolute fullest. Because this is what I believe. This is the world that I live in. I'm not asking anybody to share my faith or my belief system. I'm just sharing with you mine. I believe one day he and I are going to see each other again. And I'm going to have to answer to him, what did you do with the time that you were given? And I don't want to have to look him in the face and be like, I sat around depressed and angry at the world because I didn't get my way, right? And so, and I had a business at that point, and I had, you know, different spurts and fits and starts of success and failure or whatever. But then I realized my business has to be more than just me getting contracts, because that's what it started out was. I was working with clients and helping them build out their web presence and doing their marketing and stuff like that. I still do that today. But the point is, it needed to be bigger than just me or bigger than just creating revenue to take care of my family and help clients. It had to be, how can I create an environment that's a lot like the military where I can help people, I can protect people the same way that I was given charge to protect and train and lead people in the military. I can give that same training, that same knowledge, that same experience that great men have poured into me. The longer version of this story, one of my mentors, actually military mentors, passed away as well. And he was the guy that literally got me through combat. And so the point of me telling you this is so that you understand where I'm coming from. And when I do these videos, this isn't a joke to me. This isn't, and joke's probably not the right word, but this isn't a game to me. This is not something cool that I do to give you a couple of tips here to hopefully you get some marginal success. This for me is literally, one of my business coaches tells me, you run your business like your life depended on it. And so I treat this like it's life and death. If I'm not helping people, I am dying in a sense. Maybe not physically, but there's a part of my soul that is dying if I'm not giving something back to other people. So if you ask me why I do this, it's not about the money. It's certainly not about fame. And in fact, at some point, I hope to get myself off the camera, because one of the things you learn as a leader, as a military person, as a business owner, is you start training your replacements so that you can go do more things and you can go help more people. All right. So this isn't about fame for me. I don't want any fame. And it certainly isn't about money, because now money has to change hands in order for business to be done. In order for me to provide services, I have to bring in money to pay for the things that are necessary to render the service. But that's not the why. The why is not earning revenue. And the why for your YouTube channel shouldn't be about the money either. Money should be a result of your why. And just like I told you, my why is about living life every day to the fullest, because there are people who sacrificed for me that didn't get to, and taking other people along that journey with me. So in this particular context, and that's how I run my overarching business, but that's how I run all of my subsequent businesses like Alloy 7 as well. It's, you know, in this case, we're talking about YouTube. We're talking about growing a channel, growing a brand, growing a community. But at the end of the day, if you notice, the people I attract here are usually people who want to give something back. They're not just opportunists who are hoping to make a quick buck. Because usually when I run into those folks, they get so bored by the time I finish talking that they can't stick around for an hour to listen to me talk. Anyway, that for you new folks, and even for some of you veterans who haven't heard the whole story, that's why I do what I do. So wanted to give you a quick intro. and then we can get right into this idea. And it ties into tonight's story, this idea of self-doubt. And I'm going to show you how to flip your thinking such that self-doubt doesn't really plague you anymore. Okay? So now that you know my story, I felt it was right for me to share that with you if you didn't understand why I do what I do, because the why is very important. But anyway, let's get into this idea of overcoming self-doubt, because it's a theme that I saw in a lot. So basically, if you're on my mailing list, you've seen the emails I send out periodically. I usually try to do it about once a month, where I email out and say, hey, what's everybody struggling with? What's everybody got questions about? Send it to me. And I'm going through and I'm responding to the people I think that need, email responses, but some of the stuff I actually just address here in video, especially if it's a really good question that I think isn't very specific to an individual's problem. It's something I can share with a whole lot of people. So, self-doubt. One of the challenges you're facing, and this is how I've got to rewire your brain here. All right. One of the reasons why we struggle with self-doubt is because we believe confidence is something that happens to us. Like if I like people I coach, I want more confidence. Okay. And what people think is that confidence is something that just shows up one day and says, hi, I'm confidence. Nice to meet you. It's now time for you to be confident. Right. Or confidence is just telling yourself over and over again that you're awesome and amazing, like looking in a mirror and affirming yourself. And there is some power in affirming yourself. Okay, I'm not saying that that's hokey or unnecessary, but that's not ultimately what's going to build lasting confidence. So what you're hoping is going to happen in your life is you're going to hit a certain age, or you're going to hit a certain place in your life where confidence is just going to overtake you. And then it's like, okay, great, I'm confident now. I'm ready to go conquer the world. And it just like everything that you struggle with in life, usually I had a pastor at a church that used to say all the time, he's like, people live at the level that they're taught. And it's the absolute, I've never heard a more true statement. So what I got to do is we got to teach you better, okay? Confidence is, and if you're a note taker, write this down. Confidence is a byproduct of competence, okay? It's really that simple. See, what you're hoping is you're going to get confident, and then you're going to have the courage to go out and become, or you hope you're going to become confident, and then you're going to have the courage to go out and become competent. In other words, you can't be proficient until you develop confidence. And that's backwards. You can't be confident until you can build proficiency. But the problem is building proficiency takes grinding. It takes, like, one of the things my son struggles with is he wants to be perfect the first time he does something. I've taken him outside to play football because, Dad once upon a time wanted to, part of my other story was before I went the military route, I wanted to be a professional football player. And, he's heard that story from me and how I have former NFL players who are friends of mine. I had NFL players who were still in the NFL who were my coaches when I was playing. And my son's heard that story, and he wants, I want to be like Dad, and we'll go outside and play football, and he's learning, and he gets frustrated and gets mad and competitive because he thinks he's going to be, he thinks he's going to be Warren Moon the first time he goes out there to throw a football. And so then he doesn't want to try. He doesn't want to put in the grinding because he's like, I don't have the confidence. I'm not good at this. I'm like, well, you don't get good without practice, and you don't get confident without practice. And that's really what the main point that I want to drive home tonight. I don't plan to talk extremely long tonight. The bottom line for all of you is that your confidence is going to come as you build competence. So I want you to imagine for a second. Think back into the memory banks here. Think of something. You can write in a comment here. I'm looking at it on my phone and on the computer here as I'm in my office tonight. Think back to a time, or think back to a thing that you were really good at. And like I said, you can leave me a comment here. Name one thing in your life that you're extremely good at. And my beautiful wife is coming down here to alert me to the fact that I have 5 minutes left on this call. So, think back to a time, or it may be today. Name one thing that you think you're amazing at. Go ahead, list some. All right? And as you're listing that, my question to you is, this thing that you're amazing at, do you ever really get fearful or self-doubting when you have to do it? Does that make sense? So think of something that you're really, really good at. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be something grandiose like running a business or leading people. It could just be, I am really great. Like my wife makes the best cake on the planet. She's a professional chef, so it probably doesn't hurt, but she makes the best cake on the planet. Like there's not, I've had cakes from Duff and all these famous people. Can't touch her. And it's not because I'm biased. If her cakes were nasty, I'd tell her. So, okay. The Bernese of the Rockies says being positive to people is something you're really good at. Okay. Giant Monster Games says I'm good at being personal with people. Okay, great. So when you need to be personal with somebody, do you ever struggle with self-doubt? When you're being kind or positive to another human being, do you ever struggle with self-doubt? Jess Ann says I'm really good at empathy. Do you ever struggle at doubting yourself when you're showing empathy to another person? Okay, so Vintage Peach says, I'm good at organizing. Okay, when you have to organize something, do you ever struggle with self-doubt? Okay. And the answer is going to be no, of course. You don't go to organize something like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to organize this because self-doubt. So self-doubt is not this thing that's just attacking you. Self-doubt exists in the areas where you haven't built competence. Okay, so D. Covale, I don't know if I'm saying that right, says playing complex music by ear. That's a great one. So when you sit down to play music, are you ever just like, I don't know if I'm good at this? Self-doubt comes from the fact that you haven't put the time in to be good. It's that simple. It's that, like, when I first started doing YouTube, granted, I had a lot of experience as an entertainer and as a writer and as a leader and as a Fortune 500 guy and speaking in front of people. So there were some things I brought with me that were okay, but there was a learning curve. Like recording into a microphone is different from standing up in front of people and talking. Okay, so when you first start out, it's, the questions that I'm getting from you guys and the challenges I'm getting from you guys are, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Well, of course you're not cut out for it. If you just started making videos a week ago and you're expecting to have 1 million subscribers tomorrow, it's not going to happen unless you post the cure for AIDS. Then, yeah, you'll probably get a ton of subscribers then. But the point is, this self-doubt that you're struggling with is because you haven't eradicated it with knowledge and experience. And that's really the tip. It's not, like, a lot of things I'm going to share with you aren't profoundly difficult or complex. They're just hard to do, because in order for you to build self-confidence and overcome self-doubt, you're going to have to be willing to put in a lot of work, and you're going to have to be willing to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, make mistakes, and not have it go exactly right, so that you can learn from that, learn from other people who are making mistakes, and improve yourself that way. So self-doubt comes from lack of knowledge, lack of grind, and lack of experience. Okay, and those are the things that I really want you to start thinking through. Like every time you get discouraged because a video didn't go the way you wanted to, like I said in last night's video, stop treating every video like it's going to be the one that makes you famous. It's not. It's going to be your fame, or whatever your goal is here on YouTube, is going to be the culmination of your time in service. Like in the military, for example, you do a certain amount of years in and you've been successful through that whole cycle, you're going to get promoted. There's no hope isn't going to get you promoted. Like I had somebody in the email say, I'm hoping to be big one day. Hope is not going to make you big. The work is going to make you big. You put in the work and you build success over time. When you first start, you're not going to be amazing, but you'll be decent, and you'll get better as you practice. Eventually, you'll pin on a new rank that says, okay, now I've graduated. But you don't show up in the military and just because you're smart or talented, because you can sing, like, oh, he should be a general because he's totally awesome. Look at him. Look how handsome he is. He should just be a general because I'm so handsome, right? So you can't expect, the self-doubt is really self-pity, if you ask me. It's, you haven't put the time in, you're discouraged because you weren't famous overnight, and now you're like, I don't know if this is for me. So there's two things. You're either saying it's not for you because it's all about you and you haven't made it about your people, what we talked about in my story, or you're just doubting yourself because you just haven't put in the time to get good enough yet. And that's going to grow over time and over time. And that's why I'm so adamant with all of you to go out there and get more knowledge, to get more training, like to do things like Tim Schmoyer's book. I give my book away for free. Actually, Tim has a free ebook as well. And I highly recommend that you guys spend time, just forgive me here, I'm typing something into the, into the description. I highly recommend, like, look at where you're spending your time too, because if you're just making your videos and expecting to get better that way, you will. That's the really cool part. Like, if you live to be 150 years old, if everybody lived to be 150, you'd all be millionaires. You would, because you would get good enough over 150 years of practice to be good. Well, the problem is you don't have 150 years. You're not going to live that long. It's just not going to happen. And do you really want to be 90 when you figure it out? And that's what so many people that I work with are thinking is, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to absorb all this information that I can get access to, which is going to be limited. And I'm just going to try until I get good enough. I'm not going to seek out, collaborations with other people. I'm not going to seek out information from other people who know more than me. I learned so much from the people in my academy because they bring in things that I haven't done, things that I haven't thought of. And I'm the one that's running the academy. And so when they speak, and even like in comments, a lot of times people leave me comments, I'll listen to what they're saying, because like Michael Jordan, even the wackest person on his team would tell him, hey, Mike, next time you go to the hoop, you need to try this. Mike would go out there and do it. Why? Because he had the humility to understand, I need to learn from other people. And people always talk about how arrogant Michael Jordan is because he's cocky in person. But you listen to his coaches, they're like, he's the most coachable person I've ever seen. And he just so happens to be the best basketball player that's ever lived. So, when you think about that, Tom Brady's another example of that. He plays in a system. It's the way it works. So you need to definitely be getting the knowledge, going out there and getting free material, but you also need to put yourself in a position. The reason why so many people, the good people, like the people who are telling stories like mine, the reason why there's really, I see two reasons why people charge, three reasons why people charge money for things, okay? Because usually the objections you get to anything that you're doing, whether it's trying to get subscribers or money from people, is they don't have the money or the time to give you. They don't think they need something, and so those are really the three things that you have to work through. And for you, you may not be at the point where you're trying to get money, but let's say you have a Patreon and you're trying to encourage people to come give on your Patreon to support your work. Well, people's argument to that's going to be, well, I don't have the money to give you on Patreon. I don't have the time to watch all your videos, and I don't really need you. And the first two are absolutely false. The person that's going to tell you I don't have the money to give you, that's not true. They do have the money. What they're telling you is you're not a priority. Whatever it is you're offering them through Patreon, or if you sell products for my business owners out there, they're pushing back on money because they don't want to give you the money. But make no mistake, it's so funny. Every person that's saying that they're broke, and I ask them, how many video game consoles do you own? And it's, oh, all of them. Oh, I thought you were broke. And it's not about trying to get them to spend money on something. It's about helping them understand your issue is not a money issue. Your issue is a prioritization issue. You are spending your money on things that aren't bringing you a return on your investment, right? So the first and foremost reason why people charge is because it's fair. If I am going to give, or a Tim Schmoyer, or a Daryl Eves, or a Ty Lopez, or any of these other people out there, that if they're going to give you of their time, that's time they're taking away from their families, time they're taking away from their employees, their businesses, then it's fair for them to say, because you wouldn't go to your job if you have one and be like, I want y'all to give me money just to sit here, just throw, or you certainly wouldn't go in there and work for free because you just love them so much. Like, why wouldn't you give it for free? Because you love me. What place are you going to go work and not exchange your time for money? It's the same thing in business. You're exchanging your time or your knowledge. But really, even if someone's selling you knowledge, what they're selling you is time. Because they're helping you do something faster than if you were trying to do it, again, that 150-year span. So people that make the money argument, I don't really try to persuade anybody in that case. It's like, you're already telling me that you don't prioritize your self-development. And I don't want to work with someone that doesn't prioritize that anyway. You have every video game console known to man, every subscription service, but then you're telling me you want to build a valuable business, but you're broke. And it's like, it doesn't really work like that. And then time is, when people tell me they don't have time, and ninjas in my academy, some of you are here because I see you commenting, They know nothing frustrates me more than a ninja coming to me and saying, I didn't have time. BS. You have time. You're just using your time on other things. It's that simple. If a doctor, I use this example all the time, if a doctor came to you and said, you need to spend 1 hour every day running laps or you're going to die. You'd run laps, you'd probably do 2 hours. You would find the time, no matter how busy your work schedule is. Like, don't talk to me about work schedules and life is so busy and you're 21 years old. That excuse, I have no patience for it. And granted, I'm sure there's one example, like you're saving the world somehow, and there's always one person that's like, but what about me? We're not talking about you, but this idea that you don't have time is nonsense. When you're looking at a person who runs 2 businesses, helps a wife run a business, she's starting a second business, has a gang of children, has an elderly father that I help take care of. Like, you're not. And I run 3 YouTube channels. I do online, I don't just run my academy, by the way. I also do online consulting with businesses to help them build their brand on social media, which is a lot of the lessons I put into the academy here for you YouTubers. And I help them build their websites, and I help them do their SEO, and I help them bring money into their company. And do you ever hear me say, oh, I didn't shoot that video because I didn't have time? If there's, like, I'm coming to you tonight, right now, when I could be asleep, because this conversation needed to happen. And I promised you all that I would have more content like this. You don't hear me saying, oh, I didn't make that video because I didn't have time. So if you're gonna, like one of my coaches always tells me, refuse to work with people. And this is a tip for you guys too, because a lot of you are telling me you want to get into like the self-help world. Never work with someone who's cheap about developing themselves. Now, and I'm not saying, obviously there are exceptions to the rule. I have worked with people who literally have no money to help them out because I believe in them, because I see that they have a certain amount of work ethic and they're willing and they've put in hours and hours and they've done other projects with me. I'm happy to help that person out. But just some Joe Blow off the street who's telling me they don't have any money, but they own every gaming console since the Nintendo NES. No, it's not going to happen. And then the same thing goes for the time. Like the I didn't have time excuse. Just stop saying that. Don't ever, because you're disrespecting somebody when you tell them you didn't have time for them. What you're telling them, the honesty is, I didn't prioritize you. I didn't come to your party because it wasn't a priority. I wanted to do something else. And that's okay. Like, if you don't want to get into, like, Tim, and it's so sad, like, Tim Schmoyer shut down one of his programs. It was like $25 or $50, I think it was $50 or something like that, and then he discounted it, and then he discontinued it. And if you had been on the ball and got into that program, you would have got some really good teaching. But people are like, oh, I'm not going to give him 25. Like, $25 for the stuff Tim is coaching? Are you kidding me? Like, as soon as he sent me the email, like, hey, yo, I'm getting ready to discontinue this, I bought it immediately. Like, done. And a lot of the stuff in the program is, it's things that I already know, but who cares? Like, I'm still learning things from Tim, or maybe there's one nugget in there that I didn't think about. I paid $25 for one piece of information, totally worth it. I just spent last night $1,000 on another training program to make me better at what I do. $1,000. Without question. And it was funny because the salesman that I was talking to, like, he kept trying to go through his sales script, and then he started to realize, wait a minute, this dude's already pulling out his credit card. I don't even need to sell anything to him. No, because I know y'all's training is good. I spend, tons of money every month on a monthly fee I have YouTube coaches. I have lifestyle coaches. Like, I have people coaching me in every area of my life. So I'm not cheap about my self-development. I spent $2,000 to go become, to better, basically to have coaches help me with my branding specifically for public speaking. Because like I was telling the people in the academy, I'm working on doing a TEDx talk, which actually I had to nix. I'm getting ready to be featured in Complex magazine, by the way. I'm not bragging on myself. I'm just letting you guys know that none of this stuff is because I'm amazing. It's because I have other people showing me how to do it. And that's what you need. And your decision is, do you want to spend the next 150 years building and keep playing? Like, do we want to be having this conversation 2 years from now that you're still broke and I'm still trying. I've been here 3 years and I have, I've grown my community and my mailing list by 4 people because nobody's showing me how to do it. And I think I'm going to figure it out on my own. And you will totally figure it out on your own in 10 years. instead of getting with people like Tim Schmoyer and these other folks and us that can help you accelerate that process and give you, and every one of them, you know, and I build everything I do in business on this philosophy that you give more than you charge, at least 10 times more. Tim does the same thing. Like when with his book that's $30, I have paid literally, where is it? This book right here was like $250 or $150, $160. Okay? And it's an amazing book. But I'm telling you, Tim Schmoyer's book, as far as YouTube goes, is on par with that. It's $30. You're robbing Tim basically for the amount of time he put into that book. It's that simple. So I'm saying all that to say, you need to make sure that you have somebody walking with you. Luke had Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan had Yoda. Who did Darth Vader have? Nobody. That's why he's Darth Vader. So he tried to do it himself. And you see how that ended. He was burnt on a bunch of logs in Return of the Jedi. Okay? So if it sounds like I'm being a little bit, forceful with you, I am. Because go back to the story in the beginning of the video. Live every day of my life to the fullest and take other people on the journey with me, because my friend that died in combat doesn't get the opportunity to, and one day I believe I'm going to face him and have to, not just account to God for all the things I did while I was here on earth. That's cool. I am thinking about, I got to answer to this dude who was with me in the fight and didn't get to come home to his family, and he's going to be like, what did you do with your time? Did you live every day as if it was going to be your last? All right. And I've got to get you all in that life or death mentality, because a lot of you want to succeed, but you're not willing to bleed a little bit for it. You're not, and I'm figuratively speaking, please. Sometimes I hate on the internet, you have to disclaim everything because you never know who you're talking to, but you're not willing to sweat and burn a little bit, like in the gym to get to where you want to go. And I've got to push you. If I don't push you, I'm doing you a disservice. All right. So I am not going to go into the entire sales pitch for our academy, but I will tell you the academy is worth way more. And it's not because I'm telling you that, it's because I have business owners in the academy who were basically told me or asked me, are you clinically insane for charging what you charge? In a good way. Like, he was like, I couldn't believe that this is what you were charging once I got in here. He's like, how are you not? He's like, I've been in programs that charge 10 times as much. It's like, because I want to give more than I ask for. But instead of telling you, the belts and all the sales pitchy stuff, what I'll tell you is the benefits. You are going to get a group of ninjas who are going to be committed to your success. And I don't mean staff members that I've hired. I mean other creators who have banded together to help all of us do well together. Okay? You're going to have a guy at the helm. You're going to have a dude leading the charge who is genuinely interested in your success for two reasons. One, I think it's right, most importantly. Two, if you don't succeed, how audacious would it be for me to not try to make you succeed if you're in my program? So me helping you succeed, I am incentivized to help you succeed because that's my brand. If you just show up and I'm like, all right, screw it, walk away, then that would hurt my brand. And that would take, that would take resources away from the very people that I love the most if I didn't do right by you. Okay? So you're talking about a ninja fraternity of people and a sorority, because there's ladies in there too, who are going to be committed to answering your questions when you have them. And it's not always me, because sometimes, like somebody asked a question the other day, I had no clue. And it wasn't because it was a YouTube issue. It was a practical issue they were having as a person who wears glasses. I don't wear glasses. I couldn't answer that question. We had someone immediately jump in and say, oh, this is how you solve that problem. Boom. And so you got people who are committed to helping you succeed. So I want you to consider getting on board with us in the Ninja Academy. I just typed a link to it in the video description below. Highly recommend it. And the things I want you to imagine are, think about, for those of you that email me, I want you to imagine just for a second. Think about all the stuff that you listed, because some of you wrote me some really long emails, and that's good. I'm not complaining at all. That means you're thinking about it, and that's a good thing. I want you to think through, what if we could help eliminate, because some of the challenges you guys are having I can see it plain as day. It's like when I started playing football for the first time, and I had to have a coach show me how to make tackles properly. Now, if I had practiced for 10 years, I would have figured it out. But I just had a coach come over and snatch me and say, you suck at tackling. Here's why. This is what good tackling looks like. And the things that you're writing me in these emails, I can see it. It's like, I can't really explain that in an email, but I can talk to you like on one of our VIP calls and say, okay, here's what you're actually struggling with. Here's how we reposition you so that you can win. So you can know, like, imagine knowing what type of content you should be making. Imagine knowing that you're going to be making content that you enjoy making, that you don't have to just kind of sell out to the YouTube system and make something you don't want to make in order to be successful. Who wants to do that, right? Imagine understanding how your personality type affects your ability to be a good creator, all right? And every personality can be good at it, but it's knowing how your personality type operates and what the best system is going to be for you. Imagine understanding strategy, okay? Knowing how to build a strategy and knowing how to build a content strategy around a bigger strategy, and then knowing how to tie things like SEO into that strategy such that when you start releasing videos, you can immediately start seeing viewership that a new channel just starting off with no help isn't going to be able to do, because they still think in their mind, oh, this is all about me making sure I have the best microphone and the video editing is top notch. And that's not, those things are great, but they're not the core fundamentals that are going to help you win. All right. It's one of those things where content is king and context is God, like Gary Vaynerchuk says. And we're going to show you not just content, but we're going to help you build a context. All right. And then we're going to show you some advanced, and this depends on what level you come in at, but if you're in the entire program, which is the black belt and the VIP, then you're getting everything from SEO and content strategy to advanced creator strategies and tactics, where we're helping you understand yourself and building your brand, and how, like, one of the things we talk about is how to make your brand irreplaceable, how to get people to share your videos, right? That's not necessarily, like, people ask me all the time, how do I promote my videos on social media? And I'm like, the answer to that question is you're thinking about it wrong, because social media is not just a place for you to promote your videos. Social media is a place for you to tell a story that gets people interested in you. But there's ways that you have to do that. And it's not something that I can sum up for you in an email. All right? And then for our entrepreneurs, we've got the full black belt, which has the business builder, like 10 rules to building a successful business. Not from me. I didn't make up the rules. There's multi-billionaires who I'm getting the rules from. Kind of like an Evan Carmichael thing, right? And then, like I said, how to make your brand irreplaceable, how to build a website, why you should build a website, right? Where do you go to host a website? How do you get domain names? How much should they cost? What's overpaying? Should I get a virtual server? All these types of questions that people have about starting business that if you haven't done it, you don't know. We're walking you through those things. So hopefully you got a lot out of that, but definitely hit the link, check out the Ninja Academy. And if it feels like I'm pushing you, I am, but it's because I owe you, not you owe me, I owe you the opportunity to better yourself so that you can accelerate to the dreams that you have, okay? So remember, self-doubt is easy to eradicate. It's so much easier than you think. Self-doubt starts to melt away the more you build competence, all right? Confidence comes when you build competence, and competence comes from building practice. Tony Robbins says practice is the mother of skill. And so you practice, 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 and you're going to get a ton of practice when you get into the Ninja Academy. All right, seriously. And everyone here that's in the academy, they'll tell you, I drill these cats like a military ninja assassin organization. And I think sometimes they're like, God, I wish he'd stop uploading videos so I can take a moment to breathe. Nope. Keep going, and then go back and watch them again once you've gone through them. Not because the videos are awesome to me, but because they're going to help you. All right, so the check that out for sure. Remember, self-doubt is not, confidence is not something that's going to come find you. It's something that you're going to have to work to develop. All right, so be encouraged. I love you guys. I'm not going to take a ton of questions tonight. I'll take one or two really quickly. Because I'm going to go hang out with my wife here. What have I been missing? Because I know I've been talking. I haven't really been looking too heavily at the comments. Loco VR. Hey, what's up, Loco? Long time no see. Yeah, people do give up too soon. That's absolutely right. Yeah, Justin Rowell's got a lot of good things to say tonight. Well said. All right, so it looks like we don't have any questions, which is a good thing as always. I'd say subscribe, but usually most of the people that are watching these live are already subscribed. But if you're watching this after the fact, by all means, subscribe to the channel, not because I need the subscribers, but because you'll be able to keep up with when we're launching these new videos. Definitely hit the website, the Ninja Academy, but also get on our mailing list, because as I make these videos, I'll send them out via email. You may miss one of these calls, and then you'll get an email that says, hey, I just uploaded this new video. You should probably come check it out, stuff like that. So, hey, Local VR says, hey, B, yes, making a plan to get back in it. What is your Ninja Academy? So the Ninja Academy is a place where we take new and veteran creators and entrepreneurs, and we equip you with the knowledge and the skills that you need to accelerate, to first of all define what your actual goals are, because I find I've been in business quite a long time helping clients, and a lot of times they don't exactly know, like they know they want to succeed, but they don't really have a roadmap. So it's helping you build a roadmap for that, and then showing you the rules of the road, if you will, the way YouTube and Google search work to help you make that happen. And then we work on developing you as a creator. Right, helping you understand what makes you compelling, helping you understand your personality type, helping you understand what makes videos go viral, helping you understand what makes people share videos and things of that nature. And so that goes from the green belt, that's now the blue belt. And then in the black belt, we have the business builder, which is more for entrepreneurs, people that want to be entrepreneurs, or people that already own a small business and want to understand kind of the going backwards. Like, I already own a business, now I want to understand how YouTube and social media can help me grow my business. So we talk about things like that. And then we have a VIP program, which is a monthly program, and there's a monthly fee associated with that. But it's where once a month I come on a live call like this, but we actually talk to one another. It's not just me talking to the screen. You guys write me comments. We actually are able to talk, and people ask questions, and like if they have a specific issue with their channel, that's where they can come and ask it, and then they'll get live answers. Like there's been quite a few folks where they've had this thing they want to try on their channel. I've been able to help them pivot it so that they can get what they want out of it. So Justin says, thank you, B. I just caught the end of this, but I love your content. I love you coming around, man. You have really great comments. Thank you. Cool. Jess Ann says, thank you for the stream. Now go spend time with your wife. Will do, ma'am. Thank you so much, everybody. Remember that we are stronger than I love you all. Oh, by the way, tomorrow night, we'll be doing the next, whiteboard, long-winded, is it tomorrow? Tomorrow night's Thursday, right? Yeah, so tomorrow night we're going to do the next official YouTube Ninja Academy live, where it'll be, one of the longer form ones. I'll take questions. I'll have some whiteboard topics, and it's basically going to be expounding on the email I sent you all earlier this week about the 90-10 rule. I'm going to go into more detail, because in email I can't write 7 pages of information. I'm going to go deeper into that 90-10 rule and how people are getting it backwards. And so it's the 90 people. Most people spend 90% doing and 10% doing their strategy, and I want you to flip that. All right, we want to focus 90% on your strategy and your research, and 10% on your execution. Right? If you've ever been to war, you understand that's how it works. Like, you spend 90% of your time either sitting around or planning to do a fight, and then you spend a couple hours fighting for every month you spend sitting around and planning. So it's basically taking, a lot of what I do in business is taking a military precision approach. All right, that's one of the other reasons why you want to learn from people like us, because we have experience. I have experience branding in war, okay? And now, not branding in the conventional sense, but I have experience leading operations, planning and leading successful operations when people were trying to kill me. All right, you get a lot of knowledge out of those environments that you can apply to any business. It is totally applicable, as evidenced by the best business author of all time, Peter Drucker, who says a lot of what business became over the years was learned from military experience. So love all you guys. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow night. We'll probably go around the same time, 9-ish, I imagine, once I get the younglings in bed, and we'll go from there. Love you guys. See you soon. Peace.